Carper of Delaware, Nelson of Florida, Baucus of Montana, Lincoln of Arkansas, and Conrad of North Dakota have now all separately voted against the public option in the Finance Committee.
Good evening from New York. I'm David Schuster sitting in for Keith Olbermann. There are 5 health care bills in Congress, 3 in the House, 2 in the Senate. 4 have made it through committee so far. All of them include a public option that would let Americans choose a government health care plan instead of a plan run by a private insurance company interested in maximizing profits. Today in our 5th story in the countdown, the one committee seen as having the best shot at enacting its vision of health care into law took up the public option and shot it down. The smoking gun was in the hands of Democrats. The Senate Finance Committee had 2 versions of the public option to consider today. One of them, from West Virginia Senator Jay Rockefeller, would have cost the drug companies billions of dollars by paying less for drugs. The other, from New York's Chuck Schumer, opened the drug prices up for negotiation, among other concessions. Rockefeller's version was first out of the gate. Republicans, led by Ranking Member Chuck Grassley, raised a number of objections. One, of course, their objection in principle to any program run by the government, which Mr. Grassley tried to explain, does not mean they oppose popular government health care programs like Medicare.
I'd just like to know what you think of Medicare, a government-run program that's far more government-run than what Senator Rockefeller has proposed. Do you think Medicare is a good program? Because most of the amendments on the other side have been aimed at preserving Medicare, a government-run program.
I think that Medicare is part of the social fabric of America after 40 years, just like Social Security is, and I don't say that because it's perfect. There's a lot of things that need to be changed, and a lot of the things in this legislation are changing a lot of things that's wrong with Medicare. To say that I support it is not to say that it's the best system that it can be.
But it is a government-run plan, isn't that right? It is a
government-run plan.
Thank you.
Republicans had other arguments in their quiver. Even if a public option by itself was a harmless or even a beneficial government program, it could lead to something bad. An argument they originally used when they tried to block Medicare and Medicaid. Today, when Grassley was challenged on how the public option would lead to a single-payer health care system, Mr. Grassley said the public option would lure so many people to it, private insurance would collapse. Although the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimated only 8 million people will join the public option in the next 6 years, Grassley had memorized other statistics to justify his slippery slope argument, including one from the Conservative Heritage Foundation and one from, well, we'll explain in a moment.
Now, you just made a statement that it will lead to a single payer. Yeah. How in the world do you make that leap?
Well, you know, there are health economists around here, and I can only quote 2, but I imagine there's dozens you can quote. And the only reason I can quote 2 is because they're the only ones that I want to keep in my head to give people answers. But one is Heritage says that 83 million people are going to be forced out of their plan, employer plans, into public option. And Lewin Group says 120 million people.
The Lewin Group is owned by United Healthcare, which has spent millions of dollars opposing a public option. Senator John Kerry pointed out that Rockefeller's public option had provisions built in that prevented it from going down a slippery slope to a single-payer plan, and in doing so identified what he thinks is the real reason for Republican opposition.
Senator Hatch and others were talking about this is the first step to single-payer. Well, if people are paying the premiums that are charged to cover the cost, and it's not allowed to have a federal subsidy, and there's no bailout allowed, and after the first 2 years, the prices are set according to the private market negotiation, what are we scared of? That Americans might like a competitive plan that is in fact paying for itself and providing good service. If that suddenly sort of becomes something that Americans like more and go to, more power to them. That's precisely the choice that they ought to get.
Republicans admitted it. They oppose it because it might get popular. Constituents might actually like it.
That's why we think all of this is a slippery slope toward government-run, complete government-run healthcare, complete government takeover of our healthcare system, is that a lot of the things that we do around here we put into place, and supposedly safeguards are put into place, but when we see the effects and people like government programs, they then defend those government programs and they make them want to compete and want to survive that much more. You know, as Ronald Reagan said, that the best way to eternal life is to become, a government program. So if this thing is said that, well, if it doesn't survive on its own, it'll go away. Does anybody here really believe that this Congress would let this government program go away once it has constituency?
In the end, though, it was Democratic Chairman Max Baucus leading 4 Democratic defectors against Rockefeller's public option and 2 against Schumer's more moderate version. Baucus explaining, in essence, it does not matter that Americans support it.
My job is to put together a bill that will become law. In the Senate, that means my job is to put together a bill that gets 60 votes. Now, I can count. And no one has been able to show me how we can count up to 60 votes with a public option in the bill. And thus I'm constrained to vote against the amendment.
Chairman Baucus apparently unaware or not concerned that Senator Tom Harkin now sees a public option within striking distance for 50 votes in the Senate. Senator Rockefeller rejecting the appearance given by both Mr. Baucus and President Obama that passing a bill outranks passing a good bill.
I don't buy it when somebody says, I want to have a health care bill. I don't care what's in it. I just want to have a health care bill so I can sign it. I'm not referring to the president necessarily, but I don't like that philosophy. We're here for serious purpose. We're people who know our stuff. We spent thousands of hours preparing for these hearings that are continuing to go on. But most of all, I have to tell you that I'm absolutely astounded that my Republican colleagues are as satisfied as they are with the $483 billion of new subsidies. Chairman would disagree with that, but I don't, being given to insurance companies on top of everything they're already getting.